And again, your repetition of working from home and all of that really assumes that a majority of this country's population are people who are educated, people who've probably gone through university, have access to a laptop, and now need internet. But that is not the reality. The reality is that about 800 to 1 million students do KCPE every year. Half that number does KCSE. 60,000 of that qualify to get into university. All of these other people do not have laptops, are hardly literate. What about all those people? How do you create employment for all of those people?
So currently we have things like kazi kwa vijanas, which is happening in the mtaani. We have programs that are currently in place, that have been currently put in place by the government, like kazi kwa vijana. At least it makes sure that at least guys have a wage that they can earn in a day. But apart from that, another thing that for the guys that are not as literate enough, I would like to start if every constituency had like a loan facility where guys can access resources, training on how to start a business. And actually, these loans should actually be interest-free, because I believe the government has money. If we can come up with such facilities where guys can access credit and you train them on how to start a business, it would actually be a very good venture, because not everyone is book smart. Not everyone is meant to go to university.
Good enough, thank you. And we could go on and on about the sustainability of what you're proposing.
Yes.
If I loan you today 1 million shillings and you pay me back 5 years down the line, that 1 million shillings is hardly 800,000. So will the government be losing money at the expense of loaning it out to people?
But at the end of the day, you're investing in the youth. And the youth are the youth is the labor force of tomorrow.
Thank you.
Of today.
Thank you.
It's not a waste of money. We are paying taxes. Are we not paying taxes?
Yeah, but the money is losing
value.
value.
Are you not paying taxes?
I am.
Yes, you're paying taxes.
But
so you are entitled to that money.
But I'm...
Yes?
Yes,
the
but
same way that they want to give us 3,000 shillings every month. We are entitled to that money. We are entitled to good infrastructure. Because we are paying taxes. We are entitled to it.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Mr. Daniel, in your Nation interview, you said, I will be part of legislation that will support small and medium enterprises and other businesses by providing incentives and reducing taxes. Sounds really good. What specific taxes do you think need reduction?
So number one on that, taxation means even the interest in terms of loan. Remember that? Interest. There is taxation. There is taxation. There are various business enterprises. I'll give an example. Women Enterprise Fund, WEF. Have you ever heard of that? WEF. They give interest at 0 rate. That's giving incentive people to take money. You see? Taxation, my role is to ensure in terms of taxation, I'll give an example. If you give an incentive, it will ensure that every commodity goes down. You see?
And those are specifically the ones that I want to know. What specific interest do you think needs reduction that will bring the prices of commodities down?
There is example, income tax. No? Income tax, in terms you are paid. Nowadays, the economy is very bad. You can confirm that. There is no increase in salary of a certain specific person. Hata ukiandikwa, hakuna pahati utaongezewa. So meaning, they will relieve some allowances. Example, like right now, there is crisis. Right now, I'm talking of this crisis. You are paid a specific amount of money. Let's say your standard rate is 70,000. Taxation inaongezeka huku juu, na wewe bado hata salary haiongezeki. we can lower income tax. You see? That is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about there is some specific banks, nimefanya biashara sako, they give at 1% rate. That is high in terms of 1 month. In terms of a whole year, it's 12%. It's still high. But if government comes in and ensures the youth are forgotten. It is usual the people that have got more money is the people that are given the loans. Youth don't have anything. They don't have example, title deed, hawana. They don't have those examples. So they relieve it. If you are a youth, unaweza enda uchukue at 0 interest rate without being asked various items that are required. Yeah.
The country is now undergoing an IMF program. There's hardly any cut on taxes that is allowed as long as we are under that IMF program. Debt repayments have hit over 50% of whatever is collected. Do you think we can afford tax cuts at the moment?
So number one, what I would recommend on that, we must borrow sometimes. It's borrowed. Previously, they have borrowed some amount, but we must put a cap. A cap saying this, they have borrowed too much, and at the same time, we are taking too much from them. We are importing so much and exporting so little. The basic line is introducing industries in this our country. The industries, the processors, check the fertilizer. The fertilizer we always import. We can make for ourselves fertilizers. We can always make products. We can make the products. Another example, the oil that is in our Kenya, haiwezi tosha. We export, so we rely on them. The other side, the people that determine our NSE or the exchange rate, they have a certain specific thing they control. Tukisema kuhusu America, they control gold. You see? Huku hakuna kitu ya kucontrol huku. So it is our time. It is our time to build various industries. It is our time as the youth and the whole country to build our own processing machines or the processing farms to ensure that we do not rely on the other countries. That creates a dependence. If we continue depending on the other countries, we'll be slaves throughout. Those are the people that are making and ensuring that tunakaa kwa deni all throughout. Tunaenda tunakopa, they increase. They say the value has increased, the inflation. We pay higher. The best thing that we can do as a country, starting with my constituency level, is building the farms.
Sawa. Thank you very much. I deeply respect your passion. Now, back to Hans, lastly. It's one thing to have passionate ventures that you want to partake in Parliament, but unfortunately, Parliament siya MP moja. Wanasema kidole kimoja kivunji chawa. Same goes for Parliament. It's one thing to have a passionate thing that you want to push across, but there's the element of party loyalty. For example, your party leader was totally against BBI, while you were totally for it, or at least I understood from one bit of your tweets. The other could not understand, still trying to find my way around understanding that, but besides the point, how exactly are you going to go about wanting to implement the legislative ventures that you are passionate about in Parliament vis-a-vis party loyalty? And will you be diluted? Because compromising seems to be a different word that maybe you're not familiar with.
Well, I'm currently running on the Justice and Freedom Party of Kenya, which is, we are trying to open up the democratic space in this country. We are just not, we are trying to be veterans. We are trying to form a new wave where there's open democratic space, and people are allowed to actually run and take seats based on not based on you don't have to be a member of a certain party to actually claim a seat in parliament. So we're just trying to open up a democratic space. So in terms of in party loyalty, I am loyal to the people. Well, the interest of the people will, at the end of the day, be my priority. Whether it is a bill, if it is a bill that is being passed in Parliament, I will look at it from all angles. I will look at whether it is actually for the people or against the people. If it is a bill that is for increasing taxes and making life more harder for the people, then I will not be for it. In terms of pushing my agenda, I am willing to do everything in my power, even if it means motivating other members of parliament financially to just attend that meeting and pass on that bill, because I know that at the end of the day, it will have good, the implications of that bill will have a rippling effect on the people of this country and my constituency. So it is upon us to push our agenda by any means necessary. Yes.
Thank you so much for that, Hans. I'd like to thank our online audience for engaging with us. I'll just sample a few of the questions and comments that they've been making so far. We have Zipporah Gaku, who said it is dangerous to be a leader who just follows trends. A leader cannot sway their stances and positions that easily. We also have Baraka Robata, who is saying, we need young leaders who understand the needs of the people, as well as matters of national interest. We need leaders who cannot be easily drawn to the bandwagon of old and corrupt leaders. And finally, we have Ms. Messi Kamanzi, who is saying, young leaders have the vision and zeal, but we see them disappear once in office, and this is as a result of internal politics. How will they tackle internal politics as young politicians, given our politics are driven by skillful and adept leaders who've mastered the art of unprincipled leadership? We will table these questions to the panel for sure. We will have a session for that pretty soon. We'd like to thank you for engaging with us online, and we'd urge you to continue sending in your comments and questions and contributing to this very robust discussion. Thank you, and we'll now proceed to part 2 of the querying by the panel.
Thank you, Taisha. I'm going to start with Clement. You have played your role as an advisor to a politician, a member of parliament, for a bit of time, and I am convinced that this member of parliament is vying again for re-election in 2022, and you shall continue to be in his advisory. In the Constitution, Article 55 talks about how young people are entitled to certain rights, and yet the policy framework that is envisioned in the Constitution was only given rise, or rather was only given validity by an Act of Parliament, the National Employment Authority Act, 2016. This is 6 years after the 2010 Constitution was passed. Why do we have such a big gap between the policies, the wonderful policies that we pass, and the legislative framework that is supposed to be supportive of these policies?
Thank you for that. This will go back to when I was introducing myself. I said that when we are seeking seats as young people, one, we have to know why we are seeking seats. There's a particular seats we are looking, we want to vie for, or we want to capture. Kenya, as it stands right now, we are reliving a cyclic venture of having the right people in the wrong jobs. You get? So we find that you are a good person, but your job is not to be a legislator. You're not supposed to be an MP. Maybe you're supposed to be in policy making. Maybe you're supposed to be in business. So we find that there's usually a very big gap a very big gap. And in my 5-year experience in Parliament, working for a sitting MP, there's a big gap between policies set out by the state and the frameworks that need to be done, the legal frameworks that need to be done in Parliament. And this is because there's a high percentage of people who are good people, in essence, but doing the wrong job. So they don't have a keen interest in some of the nitty-gritties that go hand in hand with the policies being set out. So basically, that would be one of the, I won't go, I may not have the specifics to this particular bill in terms of why it has not been implemented fully. But we know even for these years, the past years, there's been a budgetary issue. But on the legislative aspect, I will say there is a gap, not necessarily for that particular bill, but it has played a big role in other policies that have not come to fruition.
All right. I don't know. I'm not convinced that ignorance is a sturdy defense for that. The inability to know what is supposed to be done, because I would believe that whoever is vying, whether they were meant to be a politician or a bus driver, would have understood the full the full mandate of being a parliamentarian, that it is your job to follow up on certain things. But I'm going to move on to Hans. Hans, you talk about some of these wonderful policies that you have in mind. You talk about the NHIF, basically introducing social security for young people, and the idea that students should be entitled to certain privileges, like having, or rather basic amenities like having 3 meals a day. And they're all very wonderful ideologies. But my question for you is, do you feel like there are supporting policies within the framework of Parliament that you can use to implement some of these ideas? And if not, what would you say is your priority bill, the one thing that you think has been overlooked for a bit of time and you'd want to legislate as a lawmaker?
Thank you again for this opportunity. Yes, indeed, it is our right as the youth of this people, of this country, sorry for that, to ensure that we are included in matters government. Article 100 of the Constitution is absolute and unequivocal on that. We need to include marginalized groups like youth, women, and the disabled. You have a look at the Disabled Act of 2003. The other day I was watching parliamentary proceedings. The last time we actually did any work on this piece of legislation was in 2003. And they're actually trying to make amendments and certain adjustments to the Disability Act. Another thing that I would like to maybe, like something I would like to add on to, is the issue of stuff like issues to do with coupons. If we can actually get coupons for underprivileged families, like in America, if we can get coupons, guys can access coupons, it would actually increase their purchasing power when they go to buy goods and access services. So you have a mother of maybe 6 children. She's not capable of maybe fending for her family. If we can actually introduce the issue of coupons, that would be actually a very good thing.
Let me ask, probably just to interrupt you, yes. Very apologetic. Something that Clement has said that has sort of set off red flags in my head is the idea that people are very unaware as at the point that they're vying of their responsibilities and their duties as lawmakers. I think for me it is to understand outside of intentions of that nature, because of course it's not only parliamentarians that have the luxury of introducing some of these things. I think one of the panelists that was unable to make it today, Billian Ojewa, has a policy to that effect, or rather he has an initiative to that effect. My question for you is, what is your role as a legislator? What is your understanding of your role as a legislator in terms of bringing forth the kind of change that you desire? Because it is not enough to say we should do A, B, C, D. As a legislator, what are the actionable steps that you have understood thus far in your campaign that can be used to accomplish the idea of a mother has 6 kids and she needs food stamps? How?
So we actually have, nothing is new under the sun. So we have policies or piece of legislations that are actually in existence. So my role or my mandate as a parliamentarian is just to add on to them where they lack, where there's a loophole. For instance, in regards to unemployment, you can go ahead and make a few amendments in regards to the National Employment Act, where you ensure that once people have finished campus or once they have finished O levels, they can have access to jobs. And it is actually a requirement that you ensure that these guys are placed somewhere and actually earning a salary and getting wages. So nothing is really under the sun. But in regards to a piece of legislation that I would be adding or I would be introducing in front of the floor, I'm yet to do quite some due diligence on that, but we shall add on to the pieces of legislation that are currently in existence where they lack, and that I feel is like my role as a parliamentarian.
All right. I will just let you know that we need not amend the National Employment Act because it actually does provide in its current state the idea of creating a database for job seekers where as soon as people are done with campus or whatever level of education they have accomplished, they are integrated into a system that then matches them with jobs. So that one already exists. However, you still have time to think. I'm going to jump to you, Daniel. I'm going to ask you the same question. You have a lot of things that you want to accomplish, the idea of a kind society. Those things may not be legislated. However, the idea of perhaps what you said, making sure that milk gets to the markets. What are some of the actionable steps you think you want to take, either legally or policy-wise, that you think can enable you to achieve some of these things?
So number one, it all deals with people. The parliament, your work, my work as an MP is to ensure I add something. But at the same time, I should be reading my people. I'll give an example of the same unemployment. Unemployment chapter 55. It says about employment, but it does not specify. For example, the previous system that was in 844 system, it was ensuring you reach class 8, form 4, university, but after university, they don't consider you. So my point is, my responsibility is to work with the relevant people in my constituency to ensure the relevant companies available, ensure that they give a specific person. Hata kama ni one company, mtu mmoja. Inapatia mtu mmoja job from that specific company, na tuna ensure it's a rule. In the same manner, I was looking in my constituency, there are many SACCOs. Nakumbuka, there are many companies. We can make it with my committee, because I have a committee of good-minded people. Since I'm the leader, mtu mmoja akishamaliza campus to ensure he is emulated ama simulated, ameingizwa kwa job pahali fulani. That's what I was thinking. That is number one. Kuensure watu wameingizwa pahali. In the same manner, we can include some other point. For example, unemployment. Unemployment is a major factor that is affecting the youth and the general. I will introduce a certain aspect on that. Digital economy. Digital economy is where I will ensure there are laptops that were promised in the previous government. Laptops is an essential item that you should have. The best thing that I can do is ensuring through the broader management of my constituents, they ensure shule moja moja iko na laptop. In the same manner,
one laptop per school?
No, I'm saying one laptop per person. Okay. Yes. Through the various people. Sini watu watakuja pamoja na tufanye hiyo kitu. So what I'm saying, I will introduce, in fact, in every polytechnic, see, it's not well equipped. We ensure that it's well equipped to ensure that they are retraining. Kuna kutrainiwa watu wakitoka, kuna various skills that are available. Those are various policies tunaweza introduce kwa location as per me. In terms of parliament, we can add to some various items that are lacking. They are specifying a youth should get employment. How? We add to that. They should be employed in this manner. Those are the examples that I was giving.
Okay. Clement, I'm going to throw this one back to you very quickly, perhaps as we wind up this section on policy. You are, with great power comes great responsibility. You have been in the advisory of a person that has sat in parliament and he is now seeking re-election. I think my question for you is, what do you think, or what would you say has been the one bill that we shall remember your particular politician by? One thing that he has passed on the floor of parliament after sitting in parliament for 5 years as we constantly struggle with legal frameworks that are supposed to be supporting implementation in this country.
We can't sum it up as one, but anyway,
perhaps you can just pick the most notable one, yes, in your opinion, that has come from you.
That. A member of parliament's role is legislation, representation, and oversight. So basically on legislation, that's why you are asking the question. On legislation, my MP, Honorable Panel, has been able to fight for the creative economy. Basically from the data protection bill, he was very instrumental in that, in the crafting and eventual implementation or actual passing of the bill. Basically trying to fight for the creative economy and intellectual property rights for the people who earn a living from their creative economy. I don't know if that answers you. I wanted to weigh in a bit on the employment issue among the youth. We always say, and this I'll bring it back on us as youth, we never seem to understand that youth is a transitionary kind of phase. It's not something absolute. So, as a nation, we tend to talk about unemployment because we have a skewed view of what employment should be. So for us, employment is where you're placed in a certain job or you're in a certain kind of industry. Right now, having served with a sitting member, I know that if you meet a boda guy or you meet a carpenter, an apprentice in a carpenter's shop, and is a youth, they'll tell you, hatuna kazi. And yet they are working. They'll tell you, hatuna kazi. You meet a guy who's a conductor somewhere and is young, they'll tell you, hatuna kazi, muhesh saidia. In essence, and this is my opinion, is that as much as we talk about 80% unemployment rate, that's a fallacy. Because in essence, if you scan through your circles, anybody who you know, they either wake up to do something, whether it's to go pick trash, collect trash, whether it's to go be a conductor, or kupewa squadi as a driver, or whatever. Everybody has something that they do. So when it comes to what you were saying in terms of education and the university system, you realize that in jobs, most jobs, like now even the industry top jobs, you only require around 5 skilled people. For instance, say in the building industry, you only need an architect, maybe a civil engineer, an electrical engineer, maybe. What else, maybe? Yeah, that's a civil engineer. So you need maybe maximum 5 skilled people, but the rest are supposed to be to have technical skills. So when we talk about unemployment, we should not talk about that kind of unemployment. We have a skewed view of what we term as employment. We should be having more people going into technical-based institutions so that they can now serve as the majority of this workforce that we require as a nation.
With all due respect, Clement, squad si kazi. Nganya moja iko na, let's say, driver watano wa sita. Akuje apige squad mbili, achukue roabe so tatu. That is not work, in all honesty. That is not work.
Why not?
Why not? Because 300, 400 hardly pays the bills. 300, 400 hardly puts food on the table, pays your rent, gets part of whatever your kid needs for school, if it is books or all of those things. You need health care. The moment that person falls sick, that one person who was bringing 400, what is left for that family? No job security, no savings at all. That family will be suffering for the period that person stays in hospital. That is not work. That is not employment. Okay. To all of you, as a young person, climate change is ravaging the economy. They are, what is it called? They are climate refugees along the coast of Kenya. The seas are rising. There is farmland that is being destroyed. There is hardly any rainfall as it used to be. What is your understanding of climate change? What do you think needs to be done within this country to curb climate change?
Let me just go ahead and take this question, since my dissertation in campus was about climate change, and so I have a bit of you have islands like Lamu that have been declared a UNESCO heritage, and it actually my lecturer actually told us that within the next 30 years, 50 years, you have islands like Lamu that may cease to exist. So climate change, in essence, might have impacts. It might have big. It might have a big impact on the economy, in terms of agriculture-wise. So if we don't have good climate, that means we cannot get enough food to sustain ourselves. That means that we'll have to import more food from outside. So in terms of climate change is a big factor, and it's something that the government should take into consideration. You have guys like Trump that they don't actually believe in climate change. So once he ascended to power, he went ahead and deconstructed everything that Obama had actually done in terms of climate change and in terms of the resources that were put towards climate change. But it is real, and it's something that might actually have future repercussions and consequences in regards to our economy. So I think that government should actually go ahead and put more resources towards climate change. Yes.
Yes. Concerning the climate change, it's a big concern. So previously they had enacted a law banning making of charcoal and coal. So currently, what we should do, we input a policy, if I get there, to ensure, and I'm very grateful to Wangari Maathai. She ensured that for every one cut tree, there are 10 trees that are planted. What I'm saying is, currently, there is a change in climate change due to cutting of trees. Currently, the charcoal business is thriving on well. So the guys cut the trees, meaning it will affect even the rainfall, the rate of rainfall. Currently, in our area, it did not rain last season.
Mr. Daniel, will you work on a legislation that bans charcoal burning?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
You will legislate, you
Yes.
will work on a law that bans charcoal burning?
Yes.
What is the replacement? I
I'm
used to
saying
use
this.
firewood, now I have no firewood. Give me something to cook with.
I was saying this, if you cut one tree, plant other 10 trees. That's what I'm saying.
But there's no need for cutting the tree because I cannot burn charcoal. You've banned burning of charcoal, so I'm not cutting any trees, right?
I'm saying this, hear me clearly.
Okay.
I'm saying, nasema, charcoal is essential. For example, currently in an increase of gases, lazima you find an alternative method, and that is charcoal. So there is another period lazima utakata miti. But to curb ama to prevent felling of trees ama deforestation all at once, una ensure you add more trees into place. That's what I was talking about.
Okay, thank you very much. Hans, that was at least a more practical approach. Yours was really, we are all believers of climate change. I do not think we have deniers of climate change in this room, God forbid. What actions are you going to take against climate change?
Well, actually, it's to legislate and come up with a bill that would actually curb the emission of gases, the emission of CO2 gases, chlorofluorocarbons into the atmosphere, cutting of trees. For every tree that you cut, you have to plant like 10 trees. I'll actually come up with legislations where we can allocate more resources to research on how to make our soils more healthier through microorganisms, and how to make our soils more healthier by, yes, we can try and allocate more resources towards research in order to curb climate change. And that can only be done through policies and legislation done at Parliament. Yes.
Can I say something on the climate change as well? I believe, as you're saying, nobody can deny the effects of climate change to our nation and to our economy. On my end, I view it as an opportunity. And this comes in different industries. For instance, we know that our rain patterns change, and these are effects of climate change. It would be a high time to change our practices, because you see, government budget has almost been like a template for years, whereby if agriculture gets this fraction, next year it will get this fraction, and it's been like a template. So we only adjust the figures based on how the economy is growing. Would it be an opportunity to now invest in newer ways of farming that don't require that the patterns that we follow? When it comes to charcoal, interesting enough, I'm a trained biochemist. When I was in campus, we wrote a project on biogas from sewer. Biogas from sewer has zero waste because it emits, you get a byproduct of clean water, you get potassium, which can make fertilizer, and you get the biogas. Biogas from a small plant, like now we did a study of Committee Prison, a water treatment, a sewerage dam. That sewerage dam in Committee had 3 options. It can be used 80% for cooking, 20% for street lighting. It can cover that within Committee Prison. Committee Prison has 3,000 inhabitants in terms of families, not the convicted felons, but the families, the wardens and their families. They're a community of around 3,000 people. It had another option where you can do 50-50. Use 50 for cooking, 50% it will light up even their houses and the street lights. And you'll never use charcoal or any other thing to cook. or you can use it 100% for lighting. It will light up their houses, light up the streets, and they won't have a need to use to use any other form of electricity as a source of, to use anything as a source of electricity. So basically, climate change for me is an opportunity to now spark a different kind of thinking that would be able to change how we operate. Even at county level now, legislators at county level, because county have a responsibility of approving how buildings are done, developments are done. It would be easy for county legislators to put it into law that before you build on a 40 by 80 piece of land, you have to show in the plans where will you plant 2 trees or 3 trees. So, and it will have to, because everybody has to have their plans approved. So we need to do such kind of new level thinking. He's not a county MP. No. CDF has no role when it comes to development. CDF, by the way, members of parliament have very little control over it. The role of an MP is to be a patron on the national government CDF, whereby your job is to offer vision. CDF can only be used for education and security alone, infrastructure. So you can only build schools, chiefs camps, police stations and such, and now bursaries. You get? That's education. So NGCDF has a specific role, which is security and education. So you cannot purport to be an MP and you're dealing with health issues. You can only deal with health issues when it comes to policy making in terms of legislation. But at MP level, you cannot be able to do that with your CDF.
Thank you very much, Clement, for that answer. I'll kindly request you, we will give you another slot. So at this moment in time, we would like to move into a different question and answer session. But firstly, kindly let's all applaud Mr. Abdullahi Mohammed, Ms. Stephanie Washira, and Ms. Aziza for their great work as the interviewing panel. Let's appreciate our parliamentary aspirants and Mr. Clement for their work and their answers. Kindly, for our live audience, start preparing your questions. We are coming to you very soon. Also, for the audience watching us on the live stream, kindly feel free to comment and post your questions to the chat on the live stream. We are coming to you very quickly. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce the honorary panel. We saw it fit, aside from the interviewing panel that was there, to have another panel that would have a more general view and would address any oversight that our interviewing panel might have missed in the grilling of our aspirants. So I'll start with our resident high heel connoisseur, Ms. Natasha Tei. Kindly wave to the crowd. Ms. Natasha Tei is a legal mind. She's a partner and she's also the co-founder of Jangana KE. We have our resident bodybuilding specialist, Ms. Faith Kerubo, who is also a legal mind. Kindly wave to the crowd. She is also a legal mind, and she is a member of the Internet Society as well as a licensed arbitrator. We also have Mr. Anthony Karanja. Kindly wave to the crowd. He is a luxury goods distributor, so if you need the drip, make sure you see him. He is also the co-founder and CEO of Royal Touch. He was the project design associate for the Youth Cafe, and he's the chapter lead at AfriCity. We also have our resident philosopher, Bwana Paul Konyango. Kindly wave to the crowd. He is a legal mind, a tax specialist, and he has very fiery basketball debates, and you can see why he's here. We also have our patron, Mr. Maina Chege, who is Frontlight Media Director and also the co-founder of the Great Debaters, which birthed this. and is also a very proficient public speaking coach, MC, and he was formerly a lecturer in journalism studies. So kindly wave to the crowd. So starting from Natasha, we are going to have you direct your questions to one of the panelists, and panelists will see what you have to say to their questions.
Is this on? Okay, great. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Natasha, as I've been introduced, and my question is actually for all the panelists. I'd appreciate like a brief response, but it comes from the context of us living in a society where corruption is systemized, right? So at this point, Kitu Kidogo is a social lubricant. You can almost not get by without conforming to some form of corruption or another. Unfortunate, but also our reality. So as you plan to step into these seats, and for someone who has been maybe on the back end of this and will continue to be in these spaces, how do you, as an individual, plan to mitigate and navigate this space without compromising those ideals and while maintaining our national values and principles set out clearly in our Constitution in Article 10? What is the plan? How do you plan to work your way through this space without conforming to something that is systemized?
Yes, thank you for that question. About corruption, the common way of living in Kenya is corruption. Specifically, there are very many methods to ensure it is reduced, but currently there is a body that is involved in that sector. If we hear of any corruption case, we are supposed to report to the relevant authority, that is the DCI. So I will be ready to ensure if I confirm there is any corrupt case, we report to the relevant authority, that is the DCI, and he helps out in a better way method.
All right, thank you for this opportunity once again. In terms of corruption, we should ensure that anyone that ascends to a public office actually conforms to Article 10 of the Constitution in relation to the principles and values like integrity and accountability. Also, they should conform to Chapter 6, is it Chapter 6 of the Constitution of Kenya in relations to leadership and integrity. We should also come up with stronger penal laws that will try and discourage corruption vices. I feel like if the punishment is severe, then it would actually deter someone from engaging in corrupt vices. We should also, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission should also be in the front line of trying to fight corruption in this country. So if you have recent cases of looting public resources, massive looting, you should not actually be even actually considered to stand in front of people and actually ask them to represent them in public office or actually get any kind of appointment. So I feel like those are my few sentiments in regards to corruption, because I have been a victim of corruption. I was undertaking driving, and most of us had actually passed very well. We had undertaken the driving, we had finished the course, and on the day of the practical, we actually had to pay something small to these police officers so that they could issue us with driving licenses. So it's actually a culture, it's something that they're actually aware of. And I feel as the young people of this country, we should actually go ahead and break this pattern and come up with new ways of doing things and actually improve. It would actually go a long way in this country. Yes.
Thank you, Natasha, for this question that has really affected our nation. My answer may seem simplistic and maybe somewhat philosophical. And I'll put it based on this. When you ask the wrong question, you cannot ever expect to get the right answer. Say you are facing an issue. When you ask the wrong question, all the answers you get will basically be wrong. So corruption is not a disease. Corruption is a result of a disease. So corruption basically is a byproduct of something else. So the moment we always seem to have a war or a fight or try to fight corruption, in essence, we're asking the wrong question. So we will never get the right answer. So what is the right answer? When I steal or when I do something that steals from the nation, for instance, say I'm a government official, I'm stealing because I think that it will make me better than the rest. I'll be safe, I'll be richer, I'll have more power, I'll have something better than the rest. In essence, that's the drive for me to steal. So when I do something, I'm doing it because I want to achieve a certain purpose of safety. I'm paying that policeman so that I can be safe, I cannot be arrested, or I can do A, B, C, D. So in essence, we have conditioned our society that we are unsafe, that I need to accumulate as much wealth as I can to be safe from these ghosts, because the rest of the world is ghosts who we need to be safe from. So basically, if you want to cure the disease, the symptoms, because corruption is a symptom of a certain disease whereby we seem unsafe and incomplete, we have to change the narrative of how we educate ourselves. So as we are growing up, we need to show ourselves that we are complete and we do not need to seek someone else or something else to be safe. So in essence, I believe that the only way we can be able to cure corruption is by dealing with the disease itself and not the symptom.
Thank you, Clement. Let's have Faith ask her question to a particular aspirant.
Okay, it's working. I have two questions. The first question, I think I'll pose it to Hans and Mr. Daniel. We have talked today about democracy, and one of the biggest things about democracy is accountability. And the roles of the MP, other than oversight, legislation, and representation of the people, I think the most important role that I would say you will hold if you get the positions is representation of the people. And for you to represent these people, you have to be accountable. So how do you ensure that you're accountable to the people who put you into that position, given that we're talking about the biggest demographic of the voters consists of the youth. Therefore, that means if we can just round it off, you're answerable to the youth. We have seen people campaigning under the ticket of the youth. I mean, given the Jubilee government, they won people's hearts by campaigning and saying that they are campaigning for the youth. We have seen people get in using the youth's name. So how do you ensure that you remain accountable to the people who put you in this position, given your oversight role that you hold in government? And also the vertical, there's something we call vertical accountability. That includes forums like this, the debate circle. So how do you also ensure that you have a position where you can go back to the people and get their views and things that are facing them and the problems that are facing them and remain accountable? So maybe you'd answer those two questions. The question that I'd like to pose to Clement is, I I think from the discussion that we've been having, there's something that I feel like is lacking. And for me, that is sustainable solutions. But we have had you talk about unemployment, we have had you talk about changes that you would like to implement. But for me, most of those changes sound like bandages. So there's a problem of unemployment, matatu drivers are employed. As one of the panelists pointed clearly, the 300 bob cannot do anything for you. So that is not a sustainable solution. So how do you ensure that you create sustainable solutions in the positions that you're given? Yeah.
Panelists, kindly let's try stick to a minute to answer.
In terms of staying accountable to the people, it's good once you get elected to an elective post, you just go ahead back to your constituents and just try and reason with them. Try and ask them, what exactly are you guys going through? What exactly would you like us to help you? In what areas would you like us to add on to? Opposed to the normal guys that just get appointed, they go ahead and the next time you see them is 5 years. So I feel like you need to have more interactive sessions with the people at the grassroots level. That will make you become more accountable. Because guys out there, they don't joke. If you're not doing a great job, they'll tell you outright. Like my mom, she is very vocal. She is not afraid of anything. If our MCA is not working or our MP, atakwambia, you promised us bursaries. We didn't get those bursaries during the COVID years, so the COVID days. So I feel like if you interact, don't forget where you actually came from, and actually remember that it's the constituents that actually put you in that position. So the minute that you interact with these constituents and try and find out what exactly they're going through, the minute you go back to Parliament, you'll have something at the back of your mind to work on, rather than just staying within the vicinity or the structure of the Parliament and not interacting with the constituents.
Thank you.
Yes, I'll answer on accountability. Specifically saying about accountability, you have to recheck yourself if you are accountable before the others. I'm accountable. In first place, I've ensured that the MP that is currently sitting is on his toes. Number one is ensuring that the projects that are in place are in standard position. Yani, the projects are you can check with them and they are in a good quality as per the budget that is concerned. There was one road that was built, I said about it, and it was rebuilt. So I'm starting with accountability. I'm accountable by myself. That is one thing. The second thing I would say about accountability, most of the youth, it's a wake-up call right now in terms of accountability. Number one, I want to form an organization of the youth in the whole Madeira constituency to ensure that they cross-check what I'm doing. In case of any projects that I'm doing, they must see me. They must cross-check what I am doing. For example, I have good things for the youth. I'll ensure that if I'm in, because I'll be put into that position, I'll ensure that any talent that they got, it's recognizable. That's how I can ensure that they can reach me. So the first thing is ensuring that you make them cross. The third thing that I want to talk about is random checkups. Unaita, you call everyone. Unawauliza, what do we prioritize the first thing? What general problems that I've confirmed in my constituency, meaning there are other problems that are internal. If you talk with the citizens themselves, they shall disclose everything to ensure that anything that we do in our idea. That's how I can cross-check about accountability by ensuring when I keep on to anything that I'm supposed to do, what I promised them about the organization, wako karibu na mimi, I ensure everything is possible because the youth and everybody in terms of the citizen, they have the right.
Thank you.
Ukiingia pale ni vizuri nifanye kazi venye ninafaa.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Sustainable solutions for our nation. I have two. One is straightforward. It's basic economics, living within your means. As a nation, we just need to borrow that principle of living within our means. We do not need to showcase anything to anyone. We just need to live within our means. That's the first, and it's straightforward. The second sustainable solution for our nation would be understanding that the role of government is to create an environment and a conducive environment for that. And when you do that, you start realizing that some of the things that we do are not a priority. For instance, and I'll be quick. When we had devolved units, it was in essence to bring resources close to the people. That young person in Turkana who felt sidelined for years feels as if now government is closer to them. So when I am in government and I serve, or when I give solutions as government for Turkana and I use the same solutions Nairobians are using, it means I've now created an environment for the guys in Turkana. Turkana people do not need tarmac right now. They do not. Yes, it's development, but that's not the conducive environment for them at that particular time. So government, in essence, as I said earlier, we tend to have a template. So we've always prioritized infrastructure, ABCD education as they flow. You know how the economy, the budget is usually structured. What if you look at the majority of the population who we call unemployed? It's the young people. Young people have energy, they have passions, they have skills. What if we invested in one of the ministries that we usually talk about as a demotion? The Ministry of Culture, Sports and Heritage. This is where anybody who has a talent, in sports, they'll be able to thrive. That young man will not go to be a what do you call them? Kamagera. Won't go to be a Kamagera there asking for a squaddy. He'll play his football and he'll be okay. The people doing the arts, the people doing other things, even now the digital economy. What if we invested the amount of money we invest on things like roads for 2 financial years or 5 financial years on one ministry, which for years has been termed a demotion because we never value it. Yet, it can pick up the masses of the youth because youth will now be able to employ themselves. They won't need to look at the government to give them solutions in terms of getting a way of earning a living.
Thank you very much. So just as a quick check-in, if you belong to or are a friend of any of the organizations I'm about to mention, please clap. Sawa sawa? Okay. The debate circle. The debate circle. Frontline media. Siasa Place. Siasa Place. Triple OK Law Advocates. ISEC in UON. UON, University of Nairobi Students Association, Oration Hub, Tri-KE, Youth Cafe, Full Marks Limited, Africa Management Institute. I think they left, but that's all right. Let's all clap for ourselves for being such a lovely audience. So here's what we are going to do. We are going to have only 4 more questions. I'll tell you how we'll have them. Then we'll move on to speeches afterwards. And then we'll have some closing speeches. Then we'll all go home. We'll wrap it up very quickly. We apologize for running over time, but we'll be done very soon. So we're going to have a question from Minor. And we're going to have 2 audience questions directed to a particular panelist. Panelists, kindly answer within a minute. People who are asking questions, kindly ask your questions within a minute. And then I'm going to sample some things from the online audience. So Minor, kindly table your question. And we'll have 2 other questions from the general audience. Okay, thank you.
So I've chosen to pass my question to one of the audience members who has been very keen, all right?
Hello, my name is Murani Ngigi and I'm a concerned citizen. My questions are directed to the MPs, the potential MPs, sorry. I have 2 questions. My first question, I'm sorry, but I'm not convinced that the 2 of you truly know and understand the role of a member of parliament as provided for by law. I did not take it as in your response to Stephanie's question that you understand the role of a member of parliament as provided for by law, not what you feel or what you want to do or what you think. Really, what would be your job description as provided for by law as a member of parliament to both MPs? My second question, sana to Hans. I take it that based off of your answers, a lot of your ambitions for Langata MP are inspired by the US. Made me want to move to Langata for a minute there with the soup kitchens and the coupons. I'm curious as to whether you acknowledge the difference in scale in which the US and Kenya operate, just the economy, our culture as a people, how different we are and the way we operate. And if you do, what are some of the challenges do you anticipate you would face as a member of parliament for Langata that would sort of hinder the accomplishment of your dreams and ambitions as a potential MP? Thank you.
Who's next?
All right, just to address your question,
Just a minute,
Okay,
sorry.
okay.
We're going to collect all the questions, then you can write them down because you'll have a minute to answer, so you think as they're being asked. Thank you.
Can I just address it, then we can move to the next person? Is that okay? Or, okay.
All right. 1 question to 1 person. Okay. My name is David Kariuki. I am a concerned citizen, as one of my colleagues has mentioned. So I've been advised to ask just 1 question to 1 person. And I will start with, Clement, right? So I want us to have a little discussion within the nexus of domestic policy and foreign policy and how we are able to, leverage on the power of foreign policy towards the value addition of the employment that you so speak of to the youth of our country. So within the space of trade in particular, how do you think as a legislator, as a future legislator, you could involve the international community looking outward, in value addition of the jobs and the business opportunities that some of our youth in our country have so that they can have, more money in their pockets, basically. Case in point, just to hopefully lead you in the right direction, an avocado in Kenya costs 10 shillings. The same avocado in the US costs 300 shillings. So how do you bridge that? Now, another. Okay, yeah, 1 question per person. Okay. No, I mean, okay. My next question would be to both Clement and David. Yeah. And this is in the lines of a piece that was run by Nation Africa, NTV, Nation Group, on crowds for hire, right? So we do claim, and it is placed in our constitution, that we are, a country that has values, that has principles, right? And you rightly mentioned that we have integrity as one of our principles, and every leader should embody such principles. So in your opinions, both Clement and David, do you think crowds for hire is something that's driven by principle? And as future legislators, hopefully, within your campaign period, do you foresee a time, and be very honest with us, do you foresee a time and place where you would have to hire crowds to increase your popularity or to drive, your personal agendas? And I'd like you to be very honest with us. Then my final question would be to Hans once more. And my final question, Clement spoke on education, and I think one of you also spoke on the same. So a Kenyan child, in class 2 is probably right now playing with Banu, right? Or Brikicho, wherever they are. And a Japanese child, in Japan, is probably coding or doing robotics and making robots that do different sort of things, even if it's just a toy, right? These are two children of the same age, but, worlds apart. So in the space of structural reformation, and please do not quote the CBC because it's almost as redundant as the 844 is. I want you to debunk for us how we can move from the linearity of our education system to one that actually makes the Kenyan youth more competitive globally, not just domestically, but globally at an international level, such that that child who is currently playing Banu will be able to be globally competitive to the one who at the same age is creating robots that can clean your entire house within a few minutes. Thank you so much.
I'm coming to y'all. One question to one panelist.
Unfortunately, my question is cross-cutting, but it's one question. In being able to secure the seats you're seeking and the one that you're representing a member for, voters have to turn out to be able to vote. And voter apathy is something that is real with us, and it's something that is happening. What measures are you taking as an individual or as an aspirant to make sure that the voters, who are the bulk of the voters, the youth, who are the bulk of the voters, are not shying away from the electoral process on the 9th of August?
Thank you for that question.
My name is Marceline Irongo, and my question goes to Clement and Daniel. You talked about the creative industry. I'd like to know one sustainable policy that will ensure is put in place to ensure that that industry thrives. Since the creative industry, I would want to know one sustainable policy that you're going to put in place to ensure that this industry thrives, because I feel like it's one industry that has been segregated for a long time, and the state in particular does not take care of the creatives in this country.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. My name is Alvin, Oration Hub. Clement, you speak here for Dr. William Ruto. So right into your structure of government, should he assume power, everything has been divided to who based on their role in his campaign. We know 30% goes to Mudavadi, 30% goes to Wetangula. We've even been told that the employment slots that are reserved for, the power party based on its contribution to your campaign success. Now, what is the role of merit? What is the role of the Kenyan professional? What is the role of the Kenyan career person who does not associate with your manifesto does he have to wait for another 5 years till we get out of government? And don't you think that is problematic in the sense that it encourages cronyism and a lot of favoritism, which tends to compromise on national ideals? Thank you.
Okay, my name is Teddy. Teddy Odira. My question is to Hans. Mental health among the youth is, let's say, a crisis right now. What are your views on that? What will you do to really impact the mental health of young people once elected? And the mental health amendment bill, do you think it's high time for it to pass, because it has been lying in the lower house from 2014, I bet?
Good evening. My name is Miracle Mudei, and I direct my question to Clement. As a policy player, especially on the part of the youth, and based on the political leaning that you're in, that is bottom-up economics. Don't you think it's merely a conception of populism rather than policy? And what assurance can you give us that 10 years down the line, your aim won't be to appeal to the ordinary man, but rather to bring in policies that are going to help the ordinary man? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. We appreciate those questions. At this point in time, I'm only going to have them answer two, the one you asked, and the one of you answers one of his. Then you're going to do a wrap-up, then you're going to continue with the questions. Okay, so Ms. Morani, who did you ask your question? Okay. Okay. Okay, Hans, kindly answer that question. Then Daniel, you'll answer his question. Okay? A minute, please.
All right. Just in brief, I am well aware of the role of a parliamentarian. First and foremost, it's to legislate and play an oversight role. That is, another thing is to take part in select committees. So for instance, if I'm a lawyer, I'm well placed to take part in maybe a Justice and Legal Affairs Committee, just to mention a few. So I can assure you that I am well aware of what a parliamentarian should be doing while in the House. And another thing that a parliamentarian should be doing is engaging in matters of national importance in regards to the economy. So those are the kind of discourses that a parliamentarian should be taking part. In regards to the differences in the US and Kenya, I acknowledge that I am trying to contrast one of the biggest economies in the world compared to a third world country, a developing country. But these things are actually quite possible if we just need good governance and people that if we can actually just go ahead and place people that are straight, we can actually get so many things working in our favor in terms of infrastructure, education, all kind of things, those social welfare programs. It all just boils down to governance and choosing the right people.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Daniel, please.
As per the law is concerned, the role of an MP, I'm well conversant. Number one is about enacting laws. Enacting laws that are required to be changed. That is number one. Number two is allocating revenue. Anything that is possible in terms of allocation of fund and revenue comes from the Parliament. I understand that. So meaning I'm well conversant. Another thing is about strategizing. Strategizing as per the Parliament is concerned. The role of an MP is to oversee about enabling the people that you are representing as the constituency, their needs are met. So I'm well understanding about the role of an MP, and I'm very capable towards ensuring all problems, almost 95% are solved during my era. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, for that. We will continue with the questions and answers, but for now, we'd like to have two members of our honorary panel give a short presentation on what it is the legislative debate means for them, or what it is youth leadership means for them. So, Anthony Karanja and Paul Konyango, the time is yours. You can come stand where I am.
Good evening, guys. My name is Karanja Wadhiomo. Wadhiomo was my grandfather, so that's how I got the name. I'm a Kenyan, I'm a Pan-Africanist, and I'm a capitalist at heart. So that's why I'm wearing the green. I do not belong to any political party affiliated with these colors. It's my love for the almighty dollar and inspired by the one and only Green Lantern. Now, gentlemen, you gave very good points today, but I think the bottom line is something that we are not getting into, right? 70% of the population of this country is young people. The representation of that face in parliament is not seen. Voter apathy. I have consulted with the IBC along with the beautiful Ms. Rosmola, and what we did is that we were in Nyeri, right? And we met about 1,000 young leaders, and we asked them, why are you people not going to vote? Why is there apathy? And one of the main reasons that they were given is the fact that they do not believe that the people have got, the youth have got the capacity to come up and say that, you know, I'm going to become a leader, come up with your manifestos are beautiful. But what you've done, there's no difference between a politician who ran in 2002 and you, because you're promising the same thing, only in different languages, right? You must ensure that when you are going to go to parliament, what conversations you are going to be gearing, what you want to be talking about are the things that matter today. He speaks about cryptocurrency, and I give you my hat for, I take off my hat for that. But cryptocurrency is not really the new frontier. The new frontier is blockchain. You spoke about small, medium enterprises, right? You spoke about funding. Mr. Clement here is representing, by that effect, the entire UDA, I would say the entire UDA interests. And I'm not a supporter of the bottom-up economics because we don't have money. Our debt just surpassed the government expenditure, our debt repayment. We are paying 62%. So 60% of the monies that are taxed from our pockets, be it through VAT, through whatever, are going to be directed towards paying this debt. Debt is nothing wrong. I come from the startup world. I'm a businessman. I understand that I need money to get funded so that I can build so that we can come up with good ventures, right? But the thing is, as young people, when you are vying, you're being looked at as youth, right? So you're going to be judged based on the fact that you are young. First of all, what new thing are you bringing to the table? New ideologies. What you need to be speaking about are things like regulatory sandboxes, right? If we are talking about blockchains, how can we help the people in Madeira, the farmer, because you're saying he gives, they give 10 shillings, right? And the liter is 60. A blockchain system can ensure that at the end of the day, because it is open source, people can see, at the end of the day, the immutability factor in it comes out the corruption. That is what you need to go and fight for if you get into parliament. But before you get there, you have a lot to do. And a lot to do in the sense that the lady who asked you about your understanding of what the role of the member of parliament, someone asked you a question here, Mr. Hans, and you gave a very good answer. And you gave a very good answer. And the answer that you gave did not represent, you asked A, you spoke about B. You need to hit these issues on the head. You cannot be vying for an MP, yet you do not have an idea, or you have not really thought through what is the one thing you are going to fight for, and the frameworks around that. Right? Right now, we are in the second season of now independence for the second time. Our nation, give me just 1 minute. Our nation has something we call, we experiencing something that is, when we talk about our economy, right? When we talk about employment, creating jobs, all that, at the end of the day, you've got to ensure that we are the people who are going to lead the decolonization of this country in terms of economics, in terms of the businesses. What happened is, in the 60s, we were told you are free people, but the colonizers kept the banks, they kept the resources. Now we are talking about the renewal, the second renewal of Africa, the second renewal of Kenya. What you need to do when you're talking about tax is go and look at how can they help us young people who are in business by not reducing our taxes, but ensuring that we are happy to pay tax, but don't overtax us. We have 6 million people paying taxes to this country. What you need to do is you need to give the government ideas on how they can bring us back to that tax basket. And it is ensuring that people get paid. And how people get paid is by opening policies which have been red tapes for small, medium enterprises for the longest time. And I want to leave you with the words of JFK. He spoke during the Moon speech in 1963. He said that the greater our knowledge expands, the more our ignorance unfolds. Unfortunately, we have seen that ignorance here today. Moving forward, we need to be very, very clear and precise about what it is you're doing, not only for the people of Kenya, but for the young people of this continent and this country. I wish you all the best. Mobilize bana, hii kitu si rahisi. Hapa, unapigana na Gachagua, Buddha. Mobilize, mobilize, mobilize. Let the young people, tell them, go to the young people, let them know that they are going to come and vote for you, and there's something for them afterwards. Sawa sawa? All the best.
Hello everyone, I'm Paul Konyango. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge you guys. I want to first of all appreciate the endeavor you're making to try and spearhead the change that we need as a people. Secondly, I also want to acknowledge the discourse that we are having here. And for me, these two things represent very critical elements of our liberation as a people. That we have to have the courage to participate in the change we want, and we also have to have the direction to ensure that these forces of change head towards areas that would benefit us. So this was not a fora or a platform to discredit any venture that you have, but it's rather to open your eyes, to ensure that you see where you need to direct your efforts and to make you a better leader for the people of this country. And also to the audience itself, it's a forum to ensure that we as the people realize our role in the entire thing. Good leaders don't just appear in parliament, they're voted in. That means we don't have the luxury of voter apathy. We don't have the luxury to be indifferent to questions of governance. We have to be very intentional and particular towards them. And perhaps when we do that, at the end of it all, we just might find those leaders of tomorrow today. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite Bilamundi to give a vote of thanks.
Thank you so much, everyone, for this. I think I'm just coming to wrap up the whole event.
It's been 3 hours of us engaging continuously. So first things first, aspirants, thank you so much for showing up, for being here. Clement, I think this platform owes much more to you. And even getting time to still come here and engage with us, it's really big. For everyone in the audience who's been here for all these hours again, thank you so much for the continued support that you give the debate circle, and we are here for you. Our media partners, Frontlight Media, courtesy of Maina, thank you so much for doing this. And we hope that this type of discourse continues for the betterment of our country. So on behalf of the debate circle, I really want to thank you guys. And when we organize such events next time, kindly, let's keep time. And also, let's keep showing up in numbers. So thank you so much. At this point, I think we can call the event a wrap. And once again, thank you to everyone who made this a success. Thank you.